went once and it never went live. And we were talking and talking to ourselves. So we're live now. So I want to thank you, Russell and Kendall Regan, for both coming in today and talking about, you're with Edward Jones and you're going to talk about the economy.
Right.
You've got CrossFit and you're going to talk about what y'all have done during all of this. So, but before we do that, thank you. And I'm going to give the numbers for the state of Texas and for Scurry County on where we're at today. And then just a little bit more information before we go into what y'all got going on. So in the state of Texas, we have 225,078 tests. In the Texas hospitals, 1,649. Cases reported is 21,944. We've had 561 fatalities. Patients recovered is 8,025, and 202 of 254 counties have reported. In Scurry County, we've had 133 tested, 20 are pending, 111 are negative, and 2 were positive still only the 2. So that's one thing I wanted to bring up. I know a lot of people have heard yesterday that there might be another case in Scurry County, but there's not. A conference call with the governor today, and he said that April 9th was the high with over 100,000 in one day of new cases. And we've trended down since then with some fluctuations. Yesterday, there were 799 new cases in Texas, and our growth rate is at 5%. So we're doing pretty good there, it looks like. It's leveled off. The active number of cases has been going down for the last 6 days, and active cases are those that are still showing positive and haven't gotten a negative after retesting. So with that, who wants to go first? Yeah.
We'll let Kendall start off.
All right.
She probably has better information.
Okay, Kendall. Right after I put this stay-at-home order in place, you emailed me and you had some ideas on how your business CrossFit could go differently. Since the gyms was one of those that was definitely going to be closed, you had some ideas of going outside of the gym, separating people that use their own equipment and all of that. Can you tell me how that's going and what y'all are doing?
Yeah, so as a business owner, we exist to serve a need, right? Mm-hmm. So when the gym itself is shut down, we're still tasked with finding a solution for the need that's there. Mm-hmm. In our case, the need is people want to lose weight, they want to improve their health through fitness and nutrition. Well, we know you can do that without a physical gym.
Right.
So what we did, this wasn't just my own thinking. Some of our coaches pitched in and had Ashley Rios had a really great idea of doing these parking lot parties, mm-hmm. is what we're calling them. And we do have, we limit it so that we're following all of the social distancing guidelines. We limit it to 8 athletes. Basically, they pull up in the parking lot. They have their own equipment. They unload it themselves. The coach still leads them through the workout just as if they were in a CrossFit class at the gym. We have 6 feet, way more than 6 feet apart from each other. We are very, very strict about the rules and enforcing it. We don't have kids out there or any of that stuff. But that way people are still able to get all those benefits of the fitness aspect, but also what's really important is some form of social interaction with other people, the support, the encouragement, the motivation, and the accountability. And that's what has made CrossFit different than other fitness avenues. Is that accountability and support. And so that's been my main focus, is figuring out how we can continue to provide those action steps or those means for providing clients and members with the tools and things that they need to continue to work on their health and fitness goals.
Yeah, and you also mentioned the mental aspect of it as well in your emails, and depression can set in if you're sitting inside your house and you're not able to go out and do your socializing and do your other activities. And have you seen any response with that aspect of it?
Absolutely. And I actually asked our members today, just if I had 2 seconds, what would you tell me has been the biggest thing? And by far, I had 50 responses immediately. Mm-hmm. And that's what they have all said, is just that getting up and working out is great. If you're just not comfortable with anything else, going for a walk, getting outside in the sun, you're going to get benefits from that mentally as well. But having somebody, being accountable to somebody who's making you work out, you're going to push yourself a little bit harder. And then having that socialization aspect, whether it's in the parking lot parties or on a Zoom workout, which is another avenue that we've been exploring, just having that interaction, having somebody push you, making yourself accomplish something that you didn't think you were going to do or that you didn't know if you could do gives you such a great feeling and helps you just overcome those obstacles.
Absolutely. I agree with the accountability. I've tried to ride my bike by myself, and I'll go out and I'll ride a little bit and then go home. But if I've got somebody, or I won't go at all, but if I've got somebody I'm going to ride with and I have set a time or a date to go out there and ride with them, I'm going to do it because I've made myself accountable for that.
Yeah.
This is the same thing. I've done the hotter than hell before. And so I've thought about it before and put it off. But if I register, I'll go and do it. I'll go and warm up and get ready for it. So accountability is a big thing in exercise. And that's great to hear that there's so many that feel that way about working out.
Yes, I've definitely been really thankful to y'all for allowing us to be able to do that, because it really, I mean, just seeing the people every single day that we were seeing every day, and just knowing that they're still doing the things that they really want most, when
Right.
it would be a lot easier to lay in bed and Netflix and chill or something like that.
Right. Well, and the other reason is because I had you come down is because it was creative. It was different. It was a way to get out of that one track thinking of, this is how I've always done business. I'm shut down now. There's no other options.
Yeah.
But you came up with other ways to do things. And that's what I'm hoping that other people will see, is that we don't have to stick with that one track mind of how we're going to do business. There are other ways to do things.
Yeah.
And I hope that as we start going with the retail to go and some of the other plans that we put into place, that are especially governor, because we're going to have to follow the governor's lead on everything, that people will come up with different ideas on how they do their businesses, so that we can move forward in a positive direction, which kind of leads back to our economy and where we're at. So what do you think about?
Yeah, I mean, on that note, I'm really fortunate to be a part of a lot of different gym owner groups, you know, social media wise or otherwise. And so just seeing how other people who are in my same field in other places throughout the country, we're all dealing with the same thing, and how they're reacting and how they're adjusting so that they're able to keep their business profitable has helped me to come up with ideas as well. And so I definitely encourage other business owners to do the same. And we've seen them doing more, the retail shops doing more of the social media type sales, and the restaurants doing the pickup and to go. Like, we see people innovating, and that's how we can make this a positive experience, is changing our business, adapting and innovating so that it's better for the long term, not just for right now.
Absolutely. And I like the way you put that, is that it's not just here in Snyder, it's all over the country. We've put ourselves in a bubble with this stay home order, but we don't live in a bubble. And there's so many other ways to get more information that we can, and we're in a technological age where it's easier to get all that information and get help from outside too. So, yeah.
Definitely.
So, thank you, Kendall.
Yes.
All right, Russell. You sent me an email early on also, telling me not just think about the health aspect of it, but the economy aspect of
Absolutely.
it. And that stuck in my mind all this time, because that's a fine line that we have to follow there. And you're right there on the front line of the economy. You're seeing all the fluctuation and the ups and downs, and the oil dropping to below zero and our market crashing. So what are you seeing?
Yeah, so I'll touch on a couple critical points. We'll touch a little bit on the energy market, because that is at the forefront of everyone's mind,
Right.
forefront of the economic mind in the community.
Yeah.
Touch a little bit on the economy,
Okay.
and a little bit on the stock market,
Okay.
and then what we can kind of expect post-COVID.
Okay.
Because like Kendall mentioned, like you mentioned, innovation is going to change,
Right.
and we're not going to be the same community, and we're not going to be the same country that we were prior to this experience, because
Absolutely.
we always change post-crisis.
Sure.
And so from an energy standpoint, you mentioned the futures and prices going negative yesterday.
Yeah.
I want people to understand, oil is traded when you get stock quotes, oil or energy quotes online or on TV. Those are futures contracts.
Sure.
Futures contracts are different than a stock quote.
Okay.
So a stock quote is what the bid price is to buy my shares.
Okay.
If you buy a stock and it goes up $10, someone else hasn't lost $10. You've made $10.
Okay.
On a futures contract, it's a zero-sum game, meaning if you make $100, somebody else lost $100.
Okay.
And so with the futures, there's a hedger and a speculator. A hedger is someone who buy something because maybe they need oil at $40 to make sure that their company can function.
Right.
And so they'll buy a contract to sell their oil for $40.
Okay.
Someone else on the other side is betting or thinking that oil prices will go down so they can buy it cheaper and sell it higher.
Okay.
So what happened on the futures market yesterday is these contracts have to be zeroed out at some point during the month. And it's typically the next to the last week of the month.
Yeah.
And so Tuesday was the day where futures contracts had to be zeroed out. So we basically had to settle up. We closed the deal.
Okay.
Because of oil price demand being so low, the speculators were so underwater that they couldn't take the delivery. They didn't want delivery, and so they were paying people to just get out of their side of the contract, and that's what forced oil prices to go negative. So being negative doesn't mean you're going to go down to the gas station and they're going to pay you to fill it. That's not what oil prices are mean. And if you paid attention to it, or if you was on our Facebook, or if you listened to some reputable sources, you knew that the next day when we rolled over to the June contract, oil prices went back up higher, substantially higher than what they were at negative $38.
Okay.
And so it's a little bit different on futures versus stock prices, but it's important for people to know that, especially in this area. Now, there are consequences of oil being where it is. Right now, with low prices, we have a lack of storage, and we have a lack of demand. And so the world as a whole uses about 100 million barrels per day of oil. And so with us still producing at that level and not using at that level, we filled up a lot of the storage units. They're not completely full, but for the most part, they're full. It's just like if you had a full tank of gas and you're not driving your car, you're not going to go pay to fill it up. There's nowhere to put it, even if you wanted to. And that's the situation that the refiners are in. So what that means is people that are producing oil have nowhere to sell it. Tanks and truckers and pipelines, in a lot of cases, are coming to especially smaller producers, which we have plenty in this area, and say, we're not going to buy your oil. Produce it, we're not going to buy it. Which obviously doesn't help anyone. As far as the refiners, you see a bunch in the news of, hey, we have oil still coming in from Saudi Arabia. Keep in mind, this shale oil and a lot of the oil boom that we've seen in Texas is a relatively new phenomenon here in the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And so the problem is all oil is not refined the same. And so we have to swap oil with different countries so that they can refine some of ours and we can refine some of theirs, because we don't have the refining capability to refine only our U.S. domestic oil. And that's like saying, hey, I don't want to pay gas prices. Diesel's cheaper. I'm going to put diesel in my car today. Your engine's not designed to operate on that. And that's the same thing with our refining capacity. And so it's left us in a mess. And just one example of that is TSA last Tuesday screened 87,000 and change on people boarding commercial flights. Last year, on the exact same date, they screened 2.2 million people plus boarding flights in the United States. So air travel is down 96%. Air travel makes up 10% of the global use of oil. So if that's roughly 10 million barrels per day that was being used by airlines, and now we're less than 500,000, that's 9.5 million barrels that is sitting in a refinery or in Cushing in a storage unit. That doesn't help the people that are producing oil.
Absolutely.
And so it kind of got a mess on our hands, and that's why oil prices have went down so low, because there's such a huge surplus that has been built up that will not go away until the economy starts back. Because that amount of oil that is not being used by airlines is roughly the same amount of oil cut that OPEC just decided to do in May. So basically the cut in May that OPEC's deciding to do barely offsets what airlines are not using. That doesn't count trucks that are setting aside, and it doesn't count consumer cars or any of the other uses that we have for oil.
And the longer we go, the more it's going to back up.
The more it's going to back up, and the longer it takes to use that surplus where we need producers to go back to producing oil.
Right. Okay.
And so it's kind of a catch-22 situation here. If you're not using it, we're not going to be producing it, and that definitely hurts our part of the country.
Absolutely.
Other parts of the country benefit from lower oil prices.
Sure.
We don't here.
No, we don't. Not at all.
So from the economy, I'm going to speak from a broader term.
Okay.
We had the benefit of having clients throughout the country and being on calls on a daily basis with different market strategists and economists. And so what you're hearing a lot now is, are we going to go into a V-shaped recovery or a U-shaped recovery?
Okay.
And the faster the economy opens up, the faster you're going to see which type of recovery we have.
Sure.
So a V-shaped is when GDP or the economy goes straight down,
Right.
hits the bottom, and then bounces back up very sharply.
Yeah.
If the economy starts pretty quickly, that's probably what we could experience.
Okay.
The longer we go with not being able to open the economy,
Right.
you're going to see more of a U-shaped recovery. The economy went down sharp,
Right.
it's going to falter along for a while, and then whenever it opens, it's going to U its way back up on the other side.
Okay.
And so that's the type of recoveries we're looking at. And with all the different news sources that are out there, there's kind of a confirmation bias on, we want to find something that supports what we want to hear.
Sure.
And I don't envy the position you and other leaders are in. Kendall and I talk about this every night. We don't envy that position because there's so many different perspectives that people are seeking bias from.
Right.
And we have some of the best medical staff and facilities that you have anywhere in the state, in our county. We're so blessed to have them.
Yeah.
No one out there has but the best intentions.
Right.
And you understand from a medical provider's perspective, there's been a lot of fear on keeping the economy closed because of the anxiety of not knowing enough about COVID-19, not knowing if we had the supplies, and we haven't until here recently, if we did have COVID hit our community hard. And so you understand that. And from a medical perspective, if someone comes in with a lot of trauma, you want to sedate them or put them in a medically induced coma, let everything resettle, let everything get better, and then let them come out of it, and things should be better.
Sure.
You can't do that in an economy.
Right.
You can't put an economy into a medically induced coma and then
great way to put
come out on the other end. It doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't.
And so if I'm a small business owner, here's the big concerns I have on small business owner like Kendall or a lot of other people in town is countrywide, small businesses only have about 27 days worth of cash.
Right. And
we're 45 days into a shutdown.
Sure.
And so the numbers are, by the end of April, the expectation is only 92% of small businesses will survive if the economy's not opened back up.
Gotcha.
Now there's a trade-off, because the trade-off is, if we open the economy back up, do we expose ourselves more to the virus? And I don't know the perfect answer to that, but it's a balancing act.
Yeah.
If we go to the end of May without opening up, 85% of your businesses will not reopen on small businesses. If you wait till the end of June, 75% of your businesses are not going to reopen.
Wow.
And even locally, there's already some business, a restaurant and a couple other businesses that we're aware of that are not going to open back up post-COVID because they didn't have the money to survive.
Right.
And so you can understand from a business owner, they're hurting and they're desperate, and they feel like some leaders, which they're not, but they feel like some leaders are playing duck, duck, goose with their livelihood and saying, okay, you're essential, you're not. You're essential, you're not. You can operate, you can't.
Yeah.
And you have some stores, your Walmarts and some of your big grocery chains, which are great. We cannot go without them, but they're having record months.
Sure.
Where you have people that are single mothers and in the service industry, cutting hair, beauticians, they're not even able to work and don't qualify for any of the programs.
Yeah.
And so the perspective is so different on the economy from so many different angles. You got your oil field workers that have been absolutely killing themselves, working hard, literally.
Yeah.
And then it's all of a sudden shut off and they don't have a chance to do anything to provide for their families.
Right.
And you've got the elderly, where we understand, we talked a little bit about the elderly in Lubbock, just like you mentioned on the state numbers, Lubbock numbers are going down.
Yep.
But they have had 39 deaths.
Right.
35 of those was related to one nursing home.
Sure.
So the elderly are more exposed to it. And so you understand they don't want to get out because they're the ones that are probably going to be affected the most when the lockdown ends. And so it's a very difficult balancing act. From a taxpayer standpoint, on all these government bailout programs, there's $4 trillion being pumped into the economy, which various sectors of the economy are benefiting from that. But at the same point, as taxpayers, now we're basically taking out a 40 or 50-year mortgage that we've got to pay for with our tax dollars, and taxes will have to go up to make sure that note's paid for. And so that's a burden on us. And without private business, eventually governments, and so being on the hospital board, we know we're going to have to cut budgets next year. It's going to happen. Y'all are going to have to cut budgets.
Absolutely.
We just went through the rollback, which was a tough situation. Now we're in a tougher situation. Churches, charities, schools, they don't exist with the private sector. And so there's a fine line of, hey, we got to protect our citizenry, but we've also got to make sure we're vibrant and allow people to maybe self-police themselves on who should go out, who shouldn't, and maybe reach out to our neighbors and go get food for the elderly and those that have the most exposure to it, because we all know we can't stay like this for a long period of time.
No, we can't. We can't. And that's what we're hoping to do, is to get to the point where we can start opening up. And I think we're going to start doing that very soon. The state is coming down with some stuff. So we're hoping to see that as well.
Absolutely. And I have no doubt we wouldn't. And these conferences have been great for people to be in touch, because I don't think you can over communicate in this environment.
No, you can't.
As far as the stock market, we went from the fastest ever bull market, which is the market in a 20% swing or more up, to a bear market, 20% or more swing down, back to a bull market here in the past few weeks. And so it's been a trying time. And I tell people it's basically like watching a Disney movie. We've had 13 times where the market has went down this much. 13 times we've recovered and went on to new heights. Well, if I sit down to watch a Disney movie, I know it's going to have a happy ending, but we're going to cry somewhere in the middle, right? And so that's kind of what we're going through on the stock market is, if I sit tight and hang on and I own good, high quality investments, I'll be fine long term. If I have a diversified portfolio where I have some cash and I have some bonds and I have some stocks, I'm in even better shape to withstand a drop like this. And so, and owning stocks is all about what you know and why you own it. So the stock market will recover. Stock market be fine. Eventually, all these companies will recover. That are set up to recover. If you have too much debt going into this, there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers. And the companies that have been run poorly are not going to fare well coming out of this. The companies that have been ran well will probably grow coming out of this. You think of your Walmarts and your Amazons and your healthcare companies, they're going to be winners throughout this, because they're essentially, we've had to have them. There's going to be other companies that aren't quite as fortunate. And so the last thing that we look at is, after every crisis, there is a new lifestyle on the other side. And going back just in the past 20 years, 9/11, think of what travel looked like pre 9/11. TSA didn't exist. You didn't have to go through a metal detector to get on a plane. And so your identity stuff didn't really matter. And the way you opened bank accounts and stuff, the security was not the same. Now it's changed. After the 2008 2009 Great Recession, banking rules changed, mortgage rules changed. It wasn't the same society post that. People accumulated more cash, banks accumulated more cash, which has helped them in this environment. And so after this, I don't know if there's going to be a Department of Pandemic. I don't know what it's going to be called, but there's going to be something. And as a hospital and as a community, we're going to be required to have more medical supplies. That's coming. I don't know what it is, but it's coming. And we have to be better prepared for something like this. You think about y'all both mentioned it, and Kendall's been phenomenal at this, is the acceleration of online adoption and new technologies. So you're seeing a rapid acceleration in the adoption of online medicine. And it's great that our physicians here have adopted that, and nationwide, teledocs and online medical appointments have really skyrocketed. And part of that will not go away after this. Zoom meetings or online web conferences and communication like what you're doing here, that's going to accelerate post-coronavirus.
I can see that.
And as far as the supply chain, I was on a conference call this afternoon with the CEO of BlackRock, Larry Fink, and he said one of his examples was 92% of all the ingredients for antibiotics come from China. And so we put ourselves in a national security issue by being too tied to other countries where in a crisis scenario, we couldn't get medical supplies and we couldn't get medicine.
Right.
And so you're going to see the renationalization of supply chains, the renationalization of medicines coming out of this and bringing stuff back to our country.
Which will be a good thing because that's
Great
just
thing.
going to be bringing more jobs back to our country.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. And so it's a great thing. Now, some
Yeah.
changes that might not be as good
sure.
is some commercial real estate
Mhm.
probably may be a loser in all this
Sure.
because another number was only 70% of those that aren't working at home right now will actually probably go back to working in an office scenario. So the need for commercial real estate
Right.
will probably go down.
Okay.
The size of restaurants
Mhm.
probably will trend smaller
Really.
because takeout orders and delivery orders,
Sure.
people really like that. Even
Yeah.
Spanish in here, people
Yeah.
have liked having the delivery and the takeouts.
Sure.
And so that's probably going to increase, and along with some other businesses here in town. So there's some really good things that's going to come from
Right.
this, but there's also some things that will be adjusted, just like there were in the 2008, 2009 financial crisis and the 9/11 terrorist attacks.
Yeah.
So interesting
I can see that
times.
for sure. It really is. And, that's a lot of good information. I agree with you. We're going to see some changes. We're going to see some major changes. And I think a lot of them are going to be good. Some of them not so good, but, just being able to do this
Absolutely.
or doing the Zoom meetings and having the Zoom classes or is it Zoom you're doing them on? Yeah. So doing that type of stuff, just the innovation that's going to come out of all of this. We've already seen incredible amounts of innovation come out of this. And I think that will drive us forward. The economy was great before this all started. Personally, I think it's going to come back. But I think it's going to take us getting back to work
Absolutely.
to do that.
Absolutely. And you mentioned innovation, the Zoom like Kendall's doing. We have so many talented people in our community.
We do.
It's exciting to me. It's scary now.
Yeah.
But it's exciting to me to see someone like Kendall or a Valerie Morris or somebody that has a
Yeah.
lot of talent
Yeah.
that's able to expand what they do outside of just the Snyder community. And those that are adopting the online,
Yeah.
I mean, who knows where your political career may go after having these.
It's going to be right here.
After having these meetings and getting a broader exposure and
Right.
shining some light on some great companies and some great people that we have in our community.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we do have a great community, and I think we're going to end up stronger out of this. I truly believe it because we are all coming together as a community. So I think we're going to be all right once we get through this. We just got to get through this pretty
Absolutely.
quickly. So, man, that's great information from both of you. I appreciate you coming and talking. Is there anything else you want to add, Kendall?
No,
No?
I
Do
appreciate
you want to touch a little bit on what you're going to do post? I mean, we talk about post change on COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of what will a gym environment look like after this? I mean, you've always been a clean freak, but
Yeah.
what is it going
Next
to look like
level.
after this?
Yeah, it will. It'll be next level for sure. So, I've been looking at what some of the other states and gym owners are doing since some of the gyms are going to be able to open like tomorrow, I
Yeah.
guess, Georgia, for example.
Yeah.
And it's looking like there are going to be limited number of people allowed in the facility and certain protocols for sanitation and all of that. And, we've already thought about marking off in our gym. We already have it all, the procedures and protocols all lined up based on what Georgia, their
Okay.
guidelines are, so that we can just
Yeah.
tweak it. I have my fingers crossed that Governor Abbott will let us open up and then
Right.
y'all will follow suit
Yeah.
pretty soon here. So it'll definitely be stuff like that where we're aware of, the risk of transmitting COVID. But then also just being able to reevaluate how we are, again, going back to our basic need of meeting people's desire to lose weight, improve their health and wellness through fitness and nutrition. And there are so many virtual ways that you can do that. I mean, you can provide support and accountability through online apps. I mean, I could help my family in Arizona so much easier now that I've investigated all of this,
Right.
all this technology and the best way to do that. So in addition to being able to hopefully get back in the gym and get back to business as sort of usual, we're definitely looking at all the different avenues for, just being able to help more people, serve more people. And so super excited about all of that. We have virtual PE going for kids. And I know for me, like, it is the 1 hour of the day where my kids just take their iPads outside and they do their virtual PE class outside completely on Zoom. So it's like babysitting for an hour or something. And, hopefully we'll be able to help more people through all the virtual tools available. But it definitely looking forward to being able to open back up hopefully soon.
I hope so too, and I hope we can open all of us up to some extent. And that's something that we got to think about is those close contact places like the gyms and in restaurants. You actually get pretty close, and then especially the hairstylists and the barbers. And so hopefully we can get input from everybody on how we go forward and get ideas put together on how we can do this. And because we don't want to all do it alone. It's 2 heads are better than 1, 10 heads are better than 2. So
well, and on that note, I mean, I did reach out to you with ideas. You weren't coming up with the ideas. So I feel like if other business owners were, concerned about it and they had an idea, they could, say, okay, I know this is what the rule says. Could we do this? It's in line with the rules. How do you feel about that? And bring that idea to you and then go from there. Be open-minded, be willing to tweak and mold it so that it is something that everybody can work with and we're all mitigating that risk together.
Absolutely.
And no one's going to be hurt from being more sanitized after this. Right?
Exactly.
So it's shocking that we're having to tell people, yes, wash your hands. Yes, use hand sanitizer. Yes, cover your mouth when you cough.
Right.
But hopefully we'll be a cleaner society after this. That's the worst case scenario.
I think you're right. And that's also a lot of that stuff's what we should have been doing before.
Absolutely.
If we're sick, we shouldn't be going to work.
Absolutely.
Or going to the store, things like that. Maybe we need to all go back through kindergarten again.
Let's have an online class for that.
Sounds good. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Russell?
No, sir. I just appreciate all y'all doing, man. We will keep y'all in our prayers. I know it's a difficult balancing act because this is such a polarizing topic.
Sure.
But hopefully, once you do start opening up, hopefully people can self-police themselves.
Yes.
And those that are ready and willing and able to get back out in the community, follow proper guidelines. Those that aren't, hopefully the rest of us can reach out and help them in any ways that we can. Because no one at all is making light of the situation.
Right.
But we all, I agree, want to make the situation better as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. My one concern, and I trust the people of our community to do the right thing. My one concern is that we don't end up where we go from 2 to 20 in no time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I don't want to lose a single person. I hate to hear that we have lost some businesses. I don't want that because that is people's livelihoods. But I don't want to lose a single person to this. And so if we can maintain where we're at, we're flat right now. If we can just continue this way, I think we'll be okay. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. But thank you both. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And now I got to go turn off the computer. Awesome. Thank you.